Hello everyone, very good evening. Yes, am I audible to all of you all? So we have to continue. So I hope your Diwali was great, had great fun.
Yes, hello there. Hi, guys. Good evening, everyone. So, we have to continue with the chapter that we are doing. We are doing the chapter of the organisms and population. Am I right? Good to see you all after a long time. You can interact with me, obviously. So, till in the last time, somebody just help me out. What was the last part that we had done? What was the last part? Like we were doing the population attributes, right? Natality, mortality, the birth rates, the death rates. Have we completed all of that? Have we completed with the pyramids? Are the pyramids and all through? Okay, fine. No issue. So I'll be just going ahead. I'll do the screen share for the further part.
Okay, so guys, here we go to the screen. Yeah, so I guess I was doing this part with you all, right? The sex ratio, the birth rate, the death rate, all that we've completed, right? We have also completed the age pyramids and all, right? So guys, have we done the the logistic growth and the exponential growth? We have completed this also, the logistic growth and the exponential growth. I think we have to start from the population interactions, right? We have to begin with the population interactions. So what sort of interactions, we have to understand is that there are some beneficial interactions, there are some negative interactions. So see, these are the different types of the interactions that a population can have. So the different modes of the interactions which exist are as follows. Like the first one is neutralism. What do you mean by the word neutralism? When both species are neutral, right? When both the particular species are neutral to that relation or to that association, then it is called as neutralism. So there are some positive interactions, there are some neutral, there are some negative interactions. So when both are neutralism, what will happen? Both are like neutral, both are like 0 0. What is the meaning of 0 0? Both are neutral. So it is called as what? Neutralism. So here both the interacting species, they are neutral to each other. That's known as the neutralism. So we'll first, go stepwise. We will do slow and steady. So first one we will start is with the neutralism. Which are the different examples of neutralism? Let me give you some real life examples of neutralism.
Yeah. So see, the real life examples of neutralism is where both the interacting species. Here, what happens is that both of these interacting species, they are neutral to each other. So, like when we walk on the road, we meet so many people, but we have nothing to gain from them, or we have nothing to lose. So there is a neutral association between us, right? So that is an example of what? That's an example of neutralism. Another example of neutralism could be that, like in a desert, there is a cactus plant. Along with cactus in the desert, there are some, reptiles like snakes. They both live in the same habitat, but their association with each other is what? Neutral. They show a neutral association because they have got nothing to do with each other. They are nothing to take, nothing to be feared of them or nothing to gain from them. So it's like total neutral, right? So all sorts of animals which live together in the desert, like imagine camel, and there is a tadpole shrimp. That tadpole shrimp also lives in the desert. Camel also lives in the desert. What is their association between them? They have neutral association. They have no relation or no connection with each other. That's called as what? That's called as neutralism. All right. Let's go for certain other examples of neutralism where the association is neutral between two. Can you all give me some associations? There can be different varieties of fish, right? There is a certain variety of fish which feeds at the surface, and there's a certain variety of fish which feeds at the bottom layer. They both are neutral to each other, right? They have nothing to do with each other. No profit, no loss. So that's another example of what? That is another example of neutralism. There are two different types of birds. Yeah, very good. There are different birds, and different kinds of birds. They live in the they feed on different kind of fish. So again, they are neutral to each other. So different species of birds feed on different types of fish, so they don't fight with each other. Ideally, they should compete, right? Because they are feeding on fish, but they're feeding on different types of fish. They're feeding on different varieties of fish. So what is their association with each other? Again, their association is entirely neutral to each other. So again, that is an example of what? Neutralism. So I hope you're through. You've understood so many examples which I gave you for the neutralistic approach. Like 0-0, that nothing to do, no profit, no loss. If there is a beneficial association, it is plus. If there's a loss, it is minus. Here it's 0-0. That is what? That's called as neutralism. It's one of the most commonest types of interactions. Most commonest interaction is to be neutral. That is called as what? The neutralism. Yeah, very good, Komal. Yeah, so many around us. Yeah, good. Then we shall go to the next one. Now we are going to the next one. Like, for example, let's understand mutualism now. Let me go for mutualism. What is the meaning of mutualism? When plus, like both are benefited due to each other. When both the interacting species, when they both are benefiting due to each other, it is called as what? It is called as the mutualism. When both interacting species, they are getting benefit from each other, it's called as what? It's called as the mutualism. So it's a mutualistic way. So let us understand for mutualism now. When both are getting benefit due to each other. Any examples you can give me for mutualism? When both interacting species are getting benefit from each other, then it is called as mutualism. The world runs on mutualism, doesn't it? The entire world runs on mutualism. We trade like money. We buy something, we pay money, we get something. So that's mutualism. Both are getting benefited. So mutualism is a type of interaction in which both the interacting species, they get benefit due to each other. Yeah, very good. One of the example that you gave is perfect. That is the lichens. Correct. One example is lichens. Lichens are an example of neutralism where both the interacting species, they are neutral to each other. Like, what happens is that the algae and fungi, it is an interaction between the algae and the fungus. What does the algae get and what does the fungi get? Obviously, the algae gets protection, and even the fungi make some antibiotics, which kills the germs attacking the algae. So how does the algae benefit? The algae gets protection, and the antibiotics or the chemicals that fungi secretes helps to protect the algae. And what does the algae give to the fungi? In return, the algae gives nutrition to the fungus. What does the algae give to the fungus is nutrition, because algae is green, it is doing photosynthesis. So it is giving nutrition to that particular fungus. All right, so let me show you some pictures for it, pictures for yes, neutralism, for so many others. See, one such example is that there are these closely related species are there. Like, see these two birds, but they feed on different kind of fish. So there is no competition. So they're totally neutral towards each other. Understood? They're totally neutral to each other. Why they are totally neutral to each other? Because they are feeding on different varieties of fish. So they show perfect neutralism. Any other examples? So many examples of neutralism. See. So as we said, no, the cactus. So in this particular desert, the cactus can interact with so many other plants, so many other animals. So cacti and the tarantula in the deserts. Cactus and tarantulas. Tarantulas are like reptiles. They live in the same desert, but they have neutral association with respect to each other. Another example of neutralism is this camel. So this particular Bactrian camel and this long-tailed tadpole shrimp, both of them, they live in the same Gobi desert. What is the association between them? They have a neutralistic association. They have nothing to do with each other. That's again neutralism, right? So these are all, the examples of neutralisms. There are so many examples, as I was telling you, for mutualism as well. So lichen is a very good example of mutualism. Any more? One more example of mutualism, guys. So many are out there in nature. One more example of mutualism. I'll give you one, mycorrhiza. You have learned that in the other chapters. Mycorrhiza is an association between what the land plants, the roots of the terrestrial plants. Yeah, the terrestrial plants, the roots of the terrestrial plants, they are in association with fungi. That's called as mycorrhiza, ectomycorrhiza, endomycorrhiza, even that is mutualism. So what happens in that mutualism? Even the fungi gets the same benefit. The fungi gets nutrition because it is not green, it is not autotrophic, so it gains nutrition. And return what the fungi gives, the same thing. Fungi gives shelter and it gives the chemicals, it releases antibiotics that kills the pathogens and keep the plants disease free. So that is also mutualistic association between each other, right? So that's called as what? That's called as the mutualism. Correct. Very good, Kumar. Chalo, others also have to participate. I want everyone to participate together. Yeah, then the next thing.
Several others are there, so we will just interact. So I'm explaining you all the mutualism right now. Okay. So in the mutualism, what is going to come? You see, I told you this interaction is obligatory. What is the meaning of obligatory? They both depend on each other. So mutualism, is a type of interaction when both the interacting species, they are obligatory. They are like interdependent. They have to be together. If they want the profit, if they want to survive, they have to be together. So it's like compulsory. It is like compulsory. It benefits both the species. Lichens, you all know, it's an intimate relation between a fungi and the photosynthetic algae cyanobacteria, right? Even plants and pollinators, like let's say sunflower and the honeybee. The honeybee gets the nectar. And what does the sunflower plant get in return? It is pollinated. Right? So that is again a type of the mutualistic relation, between where both are getting benefit due to each other. So mutualism is a very good an interaction where but it is compulsory. Remember, there's a slight difference between the words. Who's gonna tell me what is the difference between the words here? See, mutualism and proto-cooperation. Both are plus plus. What's the difference between mutualism and proto-cooperation? Anyone? Anyone wants to try? Both are positive interaction. Both are plus plus. Okay, no idea. No, I have not explained, Komal, the positive, negative is still left.
I'm going by a specific pattern. Don't worry. Okay. We are right now, we will explain positive, negative later. We are right now, we have done only first point, that is neutralism. Okay. The parasitism, all that thing is left. Don't worry. Everything will be explained in a particular pattern. Yeah. So positive, negative is still left to do. What we have done till now is 0, 0. What is 0, 0? Neutralism. Hope you all have understood that. Right? Neutralism is clear to all of you all. Great. Then the second thing that we have started is what? Plus plus. When both are getting benefit. When both are benefited due to each other, that is called as what? That's called, there are two types, proto-cooperation and mutualism. You will say me that, sir, both are same. In both there is plus plus. So what is the difference? Both are getting benefited due to each other's presence. It's like give and take relation. So then what is difference? Alag kya hai? It's exactly the same. Is there any difference? There is a difference. The difference is that when we talk about mutualism, it is obligatory. It is forced upon. It is compulsory. If they have to survive, they have to be together. There is no other way to do. There is no other option. They have to be together. If they want that benefit. There is no other options. But in case of proto-cooperation, there are other options available. It's like you want to like for a frog. A frog may eat a grasshopper or the frog may eat any other insect. Is it compulsory that the frog has to eat grasshopper? No, it's not compulsory. Like proto-cooperation is a type in which both are benefited, but it is not obligatory. The only difference is that. I'll explain you with an example. What is the difference between the only difference between the proto-cooperation and the mutualism is that mutualism is obligatory. It is compulsory. But proto-cooperation, in the proto-cooperation, the two interacting individuals, they are not there. It's not compulsory that they have to be together. Even if they are not together, fine, they will search for other options. Other options are available. It's like, for example, if you want to go to if you want to go to Starbucks, Starbucks is closed. You have other coffee shop. You have other options. Whether you like it or not, that's the other thing. So other options are available. It's like that. So I'll give you a nice example of proto cooperation. Right? Yeah, CCD is there. Mochas is there. Yeah, Tea Villa Cafe is there. So many are there. So anyway, so what I was saying was that that's called proto cooperation. In proto cooperation, have you seen wild buffaloes? On top of wild buffaloes, there are many birds, many varieties of birds sit on the wild buffaloes, and they're constantly perching the insects from the buffalo's body. Now, yes, both are getting benefited. What is the benefit? You tell me. The birds get meal, right? The birds get to eat, and the buffalo is happy because all that insects, they're sucking they were the blood suckers, no? They're sucking the blood, so they are clean. Buffalo's body is clean. So both are benefited, right? In a way, both are getting benefit due to each other. Both are getting benefited, definitely. But is it compulsory? Is this association like forced upon? No, it's not forced upon. The birds can sit on rhinoceros also. So are the birds only depending on that buffalo? No, the birds they can eat insects from deer also. You know, deers and antelopes. There are so many herbivores. So what I'm trying to tell you is that are the birds only dependent on the buffaloes or the deer? No, there are other options available. There can be rhinoceros, there can be antelopes, there can be barasingas, there can be black bucks. They can eat insects on their body. So they are not dependent on any one species. And neither are the animals, neither is the buffalo dependent only on birds of one species. Are you getting my point? The buffalo will say, the wild buffaloes says that there are different species of birds that can eat my insects. So is the buffalo dependent on only one species of bird for cleaning its body? No, there are other options available. So did you get it? Here benefit is there, but it is not obligatory. There are other options. That's called proto cooperation. Did you understand this slight difference between both of them? Yes, very good, very good. So I hope it is clear to all of you all. So that's called like proto cooperation. Any other examples you can give me for proto cooperation? Where both are getting benefit. I want like you guys to try. I give you the example of the buffaloes, the birds perching on the buffaloes. I can give you several examples. I want you to think. Guys, there are so many other examples. There is another example of a bird called crocodile bird. There is a variety of bird. Generally, nobody goes in the crocodile's mouth and comes out alive. Can anyone go inside the crocodile's mouth just for sightseeing and say, oh wow, and come back alive? No, but there's a bird. Yeah. Yes, very good. The crocodile bird is only the bird which is allowed by the crocodiles. The crocodile bird will straight away come and will go inside the crocodile's mouth, eat all the lichens, eat all the dirt and all, and will come out. So both are getting benefited. The crocodile is very happy because the bird goes inside her mouth, eats up all these leeches and all, and the crocodile feels good, comfortable, and the bird is happy because bird gets food. So both are benefited, isn't it? Yeah, great. Komal was doing that. Perfect. So that is one example, right? This is one particular example of mutualism. Any other example? Any other example when both are like benefited due to each other? Say I give you examples. Wildlife. These all examples will be of wildlife. Think. Yeah, that's correct. Very good. See, that is one example, right? The plants and microbes, rhizobium lives in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. You all must have heard that, no? Rhizobium lives in the root nodules, so the rhizobium gets benefit as well as the plants get benefit. What's the benefit to the plants? Rhizobium ensures nitrogen fixation, and the rhizobium gets benefit because it gets space for living and nutrition. Lichens, pollination. Yeah, there's crocodile and plow bird. So it's going straight in the mouth of the crocodile. Lichens. And these the plant and pollinators like honeybees, bumblebees, ruminants. What do you mean by the word ruminants? Anyone? What is this ruminants? There are some cut chewing animals like these cattle and all. They have lots of bacteria in their intestine, in their gut. So inside the gut of why only cattle? Even in our body. Do you know colon? You must have heard about the colon, right? Even in our colon, our large intestine, there are so many symbiotic bacteria. So these bacteria, what they do is that they help in digestion. They help to release some enzymes. So both are benefited. We give them nutrition. In return, they give us the enzymes for digestion. So same way in the cut chewing animals, they provide them with cellulase. Which enzyme do these bacteria provide? Cellulase, right? Which helps in the digestion of grass, cellulose for the cattle. So cut chewing animals are called ruminants. What are they called? They're called as the ruminants. You can see here the tick birds, right? The tick birds on the rhinoceros. Yeah, very good. Okay, now we go to the another example, that is we go to another category called as what? The next category that we have to go to is the commensalism. Here also there are fantastic examples. There are so many examples for the commensalism. Commensalism is a variety in which one species is benefited. So one is benefited, but the other one is not at loss. It's like neutral. Achha, one more here, a very important point I want to make is that symbiosis is not mutualism. So I'll write down on the whiteboard for you all. Okay, so symbiosis is going to involve both. many of these students have a slight confusion. What they feel is that they feel that symbiosis and mutualism is one and the same thing, and there is where they go wrong. So is symbiosis same as mutualism, or is mutualism same as symbiosis? No. The symbiosis is a broader category. Remember, this is very important. Symbiosis is no. Symbiosis is a broader category. Many a times it is used as a synonym. Many a times they use it as a synonym, but symbiosis is a broad category which includes both mutualism as well as commensalism. So symbiosis is a broader category which involves both. So mutualism also comes under symbiosis. Even commensalism also comes under symbiosis. Yeah, so this point I hope is very clear, that symbiosis involves both the mutualism as well as commensalism. So guys, plus means what? Mutualism if it is obligatory, and plus means proto cooperation when it is not obligatory. So when it is obligatory, it is mutualism. When it is not obligatory, it is proto cooperation. Both are benefited due to each other. What is not, that's neutralism. Nobody's benefit, nobody's at loss. That is neutralism. We have given you ample of examples. What would be plus and zero? So like here, one is going to be benefited. One interacting species is going to be benefited, and the other one is going to be neutral. It's not going to be in profit. It's going to be neutral. So it's not like both are benefited. It is neither that one is benefited, one is at loss. Here one is benefited, but the other one is like neutral, neither at benefit, neither at loss. Can you give me some examples apart from the textual? Yes, guys, any examples? There are like many examples. There are so many examples in this part. So let's start one at a time. Okay, we'll start one example at a time. I'll also underline these examples to explain them. Yeah. Yeah, right. So commensalism, there are so many examples that we can give you. One of the example is about the pilot fish. Have you heard about pilot fish? Pilot fish are called as what? They are called as remoras. They have not given examples. I'll give you so many. Don't worry. See here, one of the example is of the orchid growing as an epiphyte on the trees. So you all know orchids are epiphyte, right? Remember last year morphology of flowering plants, you had that the orchid plants, they are hanging roots. Remember they have the epiphytic roots, filament tissue to absorb the moisture from the air. Yeah, so orchids, they grow as epiphytes. So when they grow as epiphytes, they take support of the tall trees. What they do is that they are taking support of the tall trees. So here, who's going to be like which one becomes the benefit? Who gets the benefit? The orchids. The orchids get benefit. And what about the trees? The trees are unaffected. They are neither at profit, they are neither at loss. It's kind of like, guys, sharing a table. Suppose I'm sitting at a place and the seat beside me is empty, and somebody just comes and
requests for a chair, I will give it away. I will say, yeah, sure, you can take. Am I going to be at profit or am I going to be at loss? No, I'm not neither at profit, neither at loss. It's like, to share something which is extra. Okay, that's called as commensalism. So when orchid grows as an epiphyte on the trees, the orchid is getting benefit. The trees are neither at profit, neither at loss. Any other example like this? See here. Yeah, this is a very good example. Like the cattle and the egrets. The egret and the grazing cattle. See what happens between the grazing cattle and egrets. Who's benefited and who's neutral? Who's benefited? You tell me. The benefit is going to go to the egrets. The egrets are the birds, small white birds. And what they do is that, even when elephants trample, they eat the insects that, when the elephants, walk in the mud, a lot of insects are there in the mud. These insects fly. So these egrets get an opportunity to eat them, right? The same with the cattle. When the cattle, graze in the tall grasses, when the cattle and all, when they start grazing, what happens is that because of their feet, the grass gets trampled, right? And when the grass gets trampled, the insects, they fly. And when the insects move, the egrets can notice them and they can eat the insects. So who got the benefit? The egrets got benefit because the egrets, got options to eat, right? And they got the benefit because of what? They got the benefit because of cattle. So they were benefited because of the cattle, right? There's no doubt about that. That the egrets got the benefit because of the cattle. But was the cattle at profit? Because of this association, did the cow and buffalo, did they gain any advantage? No. Were they at loss? No, they were not at loss also. So they were like totally neutral. Did you get it? They were like totally neutral. They are not affected. So is this example understood? So that is a very important example. Yeah. Now the best example. Yeah, see, sea anemone lives, sea anemone, that has the tentacles and the clownfish that lives among them. Right? Who gets the benefit? Who gets the benefit? Tell me. You all have watched the movie, one of my favorite movie, Finding Nemo's. In Finding Nemo, so here is that who's getting benefit? The fish is getting the benefit. Yeah, the clownfish, they live inside the sea anemones. So who get benefit? The fish get benefit because they are naturally protected. They are naturally protected, right? Because no other predator fish will come there because the tentacles, these Cnidaria, no? Sea anemones are Cnidarians, they have tentacles with poison. So no other predator will try to catch the clownfish. So the clownfish get the benefit. Do the sea anemone, are they at profit? No. Are they at loss? No. They don't care. They say, fine, clownfish, be happy. Got it? So this is another association where, there is an example of what mutualism. So I'm going to explain, I'm going to tell you few more others like it.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Really like that movie Dory and Nemo, right? Yeah. Okay, so what I was saying was that the other examples, what can be some other examples for commensalism? Any examples that you can give? I can give you many. Like the coal ball, jackal, jackal always trails a tiger because a cunning jackal, cunning fox knows that when a tiger will kill and when he will be full, like his belly will be full, the tiger will like kind of doze off. And then the jackal will quickly come and eat whatever the leftover pieces and all are there. And the tigers don't attack the jackal because they don't care. They say, oh, cow, bacha kucha, enjoy, be happy. Yeah, that's what they do, right? The cunning jackal, they're called coal balls. What they do is that they trail the tiger and they eat the remaining bits and pieces from the flesh that are remain. Same like hyenas, right? Same like the hyenas. the scavengers. What they do is that the leftover, they scavenge everything that is left over. So that's like kind of commensalism. Is the tiger benefited or at loss? No, the tiger is not benefited or at loss. Tiger has had his fill. Yeah, it's shown in the Lion King. Yeah, great. It's all about the wildlife movies. Yes. Okay. Any other example? I'll give you one more example of the sucker fish. I've really seen this live when I went underwater, right, in the sea world. So there it was like the sharks, no? At the bottom of the sharks, at the tail of some sharks, there are some sucker fish. You all know the sucker fish, they attach themselves. The sucker fish, they attach themselves to the shark's tail and they take a free ride. The shark or the whale don't even come to know. Do the sharks realize that the small sucker fish have attached themselves? No, they don't even realize. So who gets benefit? The sucker fish gets the benefit. It's like a free ride. No paying for Ola or Uber. It's like a free Ola. Go wherever you want. Just go find a shark, attach, and that's it. You got a free ride. Right? So shark is neither at benefit or at loss, but the fish get benefit. Same for barnacles. The barnacles, they attach themselves to whales. Barnacles, they're small barnacles. They attach to the whale's body and they take a free ride. They take a free ride. So even that is an example of commensalism. One more example. So many I gave. One more you want? Okay, one more. The pilot fish. There's a pilot fish called remora. What does a pilot fish do? The remoras, what they do is that whenever a shark hunts, you all know the sharks hunt at the surface. So when they hunt at the surface, like for example, a penguin or a sea lion, right, or a seal, they rip the prey apart. Or when a killer whale or a shark, when they hunt on the surface, they rip the prey apart. And when they rip the prey apart, small bits and pieces of flesh sink and they fall to the sea, right? So ये लोग क्या करते हैं? These smart pilot fish or remoras, they they swim below the sharks or they swim below the, underwater, and they're ready with the table. They're ready with the, dish and fork. They know lunch is coming. They know dinner is going to be served free of cost. They don't have to do anything. What they have to do, just swim below the shark. When the shark hunts, the bits and pieces will fall to the sea. They are ready. They get free food. So who's benefited? The pilot fish or remoras are benefited. The shark and whale, they are neither at profit, neither at loss. Because as it is, they are not going to eat those small bits and pieces. They don't care. Yeah. So I hope you got so many examples. Yeah, understood commensalism. Okay, great. So that is also clear to you all. Now is the most trickiest example I'm going to give you. Let's see who answers this. It's like, take it as a challenge. Chalo, take it as a challenge. Chalo, I'll give you the answer also. It's about commensalism. I'm giving you the answer. It is about commensalism. What you have to simply do, the answer is, I'm giving you an example of commensalism. You have to just explain, what is commensalism? One is benefited and the other one is neutral. So in this type of interaction, in this particular type of interaction, which I'm just going to show you, I'll show you a picture. And I'll explain the scene also. I'll explain the scene. I'll show you the picture. I'll explain the scenario. You just have to tell me, and I'm telling you the answer. It is commensalism. So one is benefited, one is neutral. You have to tell me who's benefited. You have to tell me who's benefited, who is neutral, and in what way. Who's benefited, who's neutral, in what way. Only that part you have to explain. It's for commensalism. Example. Okay. Okay, guys, so here it goes. Let's see who's going to answer this. So, guys, this is a picture. I want you to look at the picture. Yeah. What are you seeing? You say, sir, oh God, what are we seeing? So I'll just explain you. This is the sea anemone. Okay, just see my spotlight. That's the sea anemone. That is a sea anemone. This is a hermit crab. Okay, you can see the crab clearly. You can see the sea anemone clearly. Right? So this is the hermit crab. Hermit crab, the sea anemone. So we can see the hermit crab, we can see the sea anemone. And correct. And the next thing is the snail shell. You can see there's a snail shell. Now I'll explain you the situation also. Listen to the situation. The situation is like this. So there are three things here. One is the sea anemone, one is the hermit crab, and one is the snail shell, which is empty. It's an empty snail shell. There is no snail inside it. It's an empty shell. Now, what the hermit crab does is that, listen carefully. The hermit crab goes inside the snail shell. I'm just telling you the situation. Then you have to explain the commensalism, who is benefited and who's neutral. The situation is this: the hermit crab has gone inside that empty snail shell, and seeing the hermit crab, go inside the empty snail shell, the sea anemone goes and attaches itself to the outer part of the shell. You can see clearly, right? The sea anemone has got attached to the outer part of the shell, and the hermit crab is going inside the shell. So that is the situation. You want to see one more picture? I'll show you one more picture. Okay, see here. Best. So here you can see that this pink one is a sea anemone. That's the hermit crab, and it is utilizing the snail shell. Right? So snail shell, hermit crab, and sea anemone. I've told you the situation. Now you guys tell me how it is commensalism. Who's benefited? Who's neutral? Go for it. Yes. Okay. Okay. Kumal, well tried. That's why I'm saying it is not that easy. See, guys, it is definitely not that easy. Listen now. Here, who's getting benefited and who's neutral? Guys, first of all, the crab is getting benefit. I agree. Why the crab is going inside the snail shell? Because the crab will be protected from predators. Yeah. So, Komal, you are right when you are saying that the crab is going to get benefit. That's why it is going inside the snail shell. Right? Because then the shell will cover the crab and the crab won't be attacked by predators. But that is correct. But here these population interactions are between two living things. They are between two living things. Now understand one thing: the snail shell is an empty snail shell. So is it living? Is the empty snail shell living? No, it is not living. It is a non-living thing. Yeah, are you understanding what I'm saying? The crab is getting benefit. Yes, I do agree 100%. Understand that you'll really like it. The crab is getting benefit, sure. The crab is benefited, but it is benefited due to whom? It is benefited due to the snail shell, which is non-living. So here it will not be counted. Who's getting benefited here is the sea anemone. Who's the smartest? Yeah, so understood who's the smartest here. The smartest of the lot is the sea anemone. Why? Why? Because seeing the, you'll say, sir, how sea anemone getting benefit? This association has to be between two living things. So this association is between the crab and the sea anemone. Who is getting benefit because of whom? The sea anemone is benefited because of crab. How? I'll tell you. The sea anemone is benefited because क्या होता है कि snail shell तो non-living है. Guys, listen. The snail shell is non-living. So is it going to walk on its own? Is it going to walk on its own? No, because it is non-living thing. It's not going to walk on its own. The crab is going to, the crab goes inside the snail shell. The crab goes inside the snail shell and then the crab starts walking, no? So sea anemone gets attached to the outer part of the shell. So that as the crab is moving, inside the shell, the sea anemone gets a free ride. Free ride kisko mila? Who got a free ride? Sea anemone got a free ride. And because of that free ride, it gets opportunities for eating food. Because see, sea anemones are sedentary. Are you understanding? Sea anemones are cnidarians. Cnidarians, coelentrates, they are sedentary. So because the crab is moving, क्योंकि crab चल रहा है, because the crab is moving, the sea anemone got opportunities for eating food and it got a free ride. So who got benefit? Sea anemone. Crab को neutral है. Crab को कुछ फर्क पड़ा? See, is the crab benefited because of sea anemone? Crab को फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Crab is saying, I am going inside the shell. That's my benefit. Is the crab benefited because of sea anemone? No. Is the crab at loss due to sea anemone? Is the crab at loss because sea anemone bar attached? So is the crab at loss? No. It doesn't care. Right? It got a crab ko benefit hua, but crab got benefit because of shell, snail shell, which is a non-living thing. So it won't be counted here. Did you understand this example? This is an example of commensalism. Sea anemone got benefit due to the crab because sea anemone got more opportunities for eating food. Is this understood? Yes, I hope everyone is clear. Komal, sea anemone got benefit and crab is neutral. Yeah, understood. Great. Now we shall go for the other sort of the interactions. So where we are going ahead to the other interactions now. So you just for NEET, this could be important. So the instrument to measure the height of trees is hypsometer. Just remember, like, the instrument which is used to measure the height of the trees, what is that called as? That is known as the hypsometer. So hypsometer is measuring that. The World Environment Day is 5th of June. So which is the World Environment Day? The World Environment Day is 5th of June. So 5th June is the World
Environment Day. Right? So World Population Day is 11 July. Why 11 July? Because it was on 11 July 1987, I guess, like when the world population reached 5 billion. The world population reached the 5 billion mark. And to remember that day, it was said to be the World Population Day. That reminds us that we are going down the wrong way. We have to try to reduce it. World Earth Day is 22nd April. And Ozone Day is 16th September. Specific dates could be asked for NEET. All right, so going further now. So we are very clear with what neutralism, 0, we are very clear with the mutualism, plus, but obligatory. We are very clear with proto cooperation, plus, but it is not compulsory, optional. We are very clear with commensalism, plus and 0, where one is benefited, the other one is at loss. So we are very clear with all these interactions. Now we have to go ahead to the next one, that is the competition. Now see, as I always say to myself, right, never try to compete with anyone. Competition is always bad. You should compete with yourself, not with others. Why take others as the role? Think about yourself and compete with yourself every day to make yourself better. So competition may always there is loss. Remember, competition is always at loss, because whenever there is competition, there's going to be loss. So they're like war. If suppose two countries go at war, are they going to be really benefited? Tell me. In this modern world, why there are no wars? Everyone talks about war, but do two countries which are equally mighty, do they go for war? No, because they will know that even if they go for wars, they will hardly benefit, right? Yes, obviously one will win, and in the end one will win, but the one who will win will also lose so much. So there's no point in going to war. So there's no point in doing competition. So where both the species will be totally at loss. This is an example. See, competition is always between equals, right? It is always between competitors. But there are some bizarre examples of competition where competition exists between two species which have no connection. And one such example is in Mumbai. I have seen this example actually. In the shallow creeks on the west coast of Mumbai, visiting flamingos and fish compete for the zooplankton. I mean, this can happen in the Powai Lake, right? When the flamingos or the Sevadi, these places where the flamingos come every year. So it's a very weird type of competition where a flamingo is competing. Can you imagine a flamingo competing with a fish? You'll ask me, sir, why is the flamingo competing with fish? Because both want zooplankton. Zooplankton are like insects. Both want zooplankton because the fish are locals. They are local, right? They are in the same water. They have been eating the zooplanktons. And suddenly now the flamingos come and they also want the zooplankton. So it's kind of like a very weird type of competition. Sometimes, resources need not always be limiting. See, competition, when it will happen? Why will somebody compete? They'll compete for food. Wild animals compete for food. They compete for mate. That is a partner. They compete for territory. We compete for guys need, we compete for a seat in a medical college. So the competition is because resources are less. Competition is why there should be logically competition should only exist when resources are less. But sometimes, even though resources are a lot, these stupid wild animals, they compete because that's why they are not humans, They don't have the intellect. Sometimes they compete just like that. Even though the resources are so much, they don't realize that, they don't know that, so they compete. Like, see, for example, leopards always, stay away from lions. And lions always try to kill the leopards and cheetahs because they don't want competitors. It's a common practice in Africa. Like, pack of lions always will hunt the leopards or the cheetahs because they don't want competitors. Even though the resources are too much. Resources are plenty in Africa. Still they will hunt because they don't want competitors. Yeah. So there's a very important principle that this scientist has said, very important for MCQs. That's a very important. It's a very important one. Gauss, he gave the principle of competitive exclusion principle, and this applies to everyone. Just like Darwin's theory applies, just like survival of fittest applies, this also applies. The competitive exclusion principle states that two closely related species, when there are two species and they're competing for the same thing, they can never coexist indefinitely, 100%. They can never be peace. If there are two people wanting the same thing, can they be at peace? No. Eventually there will be competition, and eventually one will win and one will lose. You understood? It's like, two countries wanting the same piece of land. Can they be at peace? No, they can't be at peace. So it's like that. So two closely related species competing for the same resource cannot coexist indefinitely. And the inferior one will be eventually eliminated out. Yes, the superior will be at loss but the inferior will be eliminated out eventually. I hope you understood this principle. Yeah, so you can see this. This is the example where the lions, they hunt down the leopards and all. What they could do, when the resources are limited, fine. See, competition should be done when resources are limited, very less. But when resources are not limited, then why to compete? It's like, divide and rule. What they could do is that they could do resource partitioning. What they can do is that they can instead of competing and causing loss to each other, can't they partition the resources? If the resources are abundant, why don't you divide them rather than doing competition? Resource partitioning is more logical. These are all things which I'm explaining you, guys. This comes in the MCQs. Huh? You might be thinking that this is all general, kind of like GK but these MCQs come, resource partitioning MCQs have come. So resource partitioning should be promoted. So that can cause coexistence. Rather than try to exclude each other, rather than try and eliminate each other, why not coexist in this beautiful world and coexist in peace? Right? That is called resource. This is only possible by resource partitioning. Right? So that is one more way of competition. Like, see, co-evolution is also very important. What do you mean by the word co-evolution? These hummingbirds depend on particular species of flowers. They'll only be depending on a certain variety. Similarly, certain plants are only pollinated by hummingbirds. Are you understanding? So they have evolved together, and they will get extinct together. So they are like totally dependent on each other. If the hummingbirds get extinct, these plants will also get extinct. And the same way, if these plants get extinct, the hummingbirds will get extinct because they have developed a very close, intimate association, like a fixed association. Nobody else is allowed. That is called co-evolution. They have evolved together. So God forbid if any one of them gets extinct, the other one by default gets extinct. So that is called co-extinction. Just like there is co-evolution, there is co-extinction. So species which co-evolve also, you know, uh, they get co-extinct also. Yes, correct. kind of like not direct connection of gauze and gauze state. Now gauze, oh, like that gauze. Oh, great, 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 Komal. You know, I don't know how you thought of it. Like you're thinking like a doctor.
But you know, basically the thing that you have asked, this was asked gauze tape, the gauze that we type, you know, this came in KBC. This question of gauze tape, why the word gauze tape? It came in KBC. You know why it is called gauze tape? It was first, practiced in the strip of Gaza. ये जो gauze tape है ना, वो जो bandage जैसा बांधते हैं ना हम लोग gauze, that was started in Gaza, and that's why the word gauze tape. And this question was asked in KBC. Some connection, not because of that gauze scientist. Anyway, yeah. ठीक है, तो चलो अभी we have to go further. Competition we've done about the competition, how both are, you know, are at loss due to each other and so on. So then, you know, now we've talked about the parasitism. See, when you share a table, it's like when you're sharing a table, it's like kind of what commensalism. What is a parasite? Parasite is like, you know, which causes loss. When one is at benefit and the other one is at loss, that is called parasitism. Now, to understand about parasites, it's very important to learn about parasites. What is the mantra for parasitism? Plus and minus. So one is benefited, the other one is at loss. So when this rule is followed, it is called as what? Parasitism. One interacting species is benefited, the other interacting species is at loss. So I want from you all, what do you know about a parasite? No one about parasites? Okay, let us give you some more examples. Chalo, I'll give you more examples. All right, good, good. Yes, yes, Anjali, you have raised your hand. You want to tell about parasites? Yeah, I'm just sharing some more examples with regards to the see this is all about the same from the NCRT, that same stuff like, you know, plus plus, that's mutualism. Okay, minus minus is what? Competition. Plus and minus is predation also and parasites also. We'll explain them together. Plus and minus, predation or parasitism. Plus zero is commensalism. Zero is neutralism. Right? And minus and zero, what is that? I'm going to explain you just now. That is amensalism. Before that, let's go to certain examples. Of competition. So these are from the NCRT, like the same ones, like in South American League, the visiting flamingos and resident fish compete for the food.
and the zooplanktons, the same thing. So gauze, I've told you about the gauze. Yeah, see here, the abundant tortoises in Galapagos Islands, right? The abundant tortoises in the Galapagos Islands became extinct within a decade after goats were introduced, right? So the abundant tortoises, you know what, they are very small tortoises. So because of the introduction of goats, you know, the goats trampled upon these tortoises, the goats ate away all the grass. So, you know, that was a competition. So goats were like the competition for the tortoises because goats ate away all the grass. So there was nothing left for the abundant tortoise. So eventually they got extinct from the Galapagos. Right? Why they got extinct? Because the browsing efficiency of goats was better, right? What is browsing? Feeding efficiency. Foraging efficiency of goats was better than the tortoises. So the same way between a lion and a leopard, the lion has more capabilities of hunting than a leopard. So obviously, you know, the lions will dominate. So one will be dominant, the other one will be recessive. Mendel's laws. Law of dominance. Now, what is the principle of competitive release tells us? Competitive release means what? Like, you know, like you all know the dominant and the recessive, you all know the rule, now. Capital T is for tallness. Small t is for dwarfness. And capital T, small t is again for tallness. Right? So when both dominant are there, or when one is dominant, the other one is recessive, still the dominant one wins, right? So when one is dominant and the other one is recessive, the dominant will only win. The dominant will only win. The recessive will has no say. So the tallness will not be exhibited, right? Only the dwarfness won't be exhibited. Only the tallness will be exhibited. But what if the tallness goes away? If the capital T is removed, then the dwarfness can be exhibited. You know that, right? You know this is as per the Mendel. So in the same example, like, you know, between lion and leopards, right? Until the time the lions are there, the leopards can't flourish in the same area. Right? Till the time the lions are there, the leopards can't flourish. But what if the lions go away from that area? What if the lions go away from that area? That is like best for the leopards, right? Then the leopards will become dominant. Are you understanding? That is called competitive release. If your fierce competitor goes out, then now you become dominant. So that's called as the principle of what? The competitive release. I hope you got it, right? So because there was another stronger one, when the stronger species goes away, the weaker one becomes strong. Right? So that gives a chance for the others to flourish. And yeah, we have some examples to support. See, Cornell did the experiment on the, you know, rocky seas of Scotland, right? So there are some experiments done by Cornell, you know, on the Scotland, on this rocky seas of coast of Scotland. Then there were the large and the, you know, superior barnacles. Balanus dominated the intertidal region, and then the weaker barnacles, that is the Cathameles, was eliminated. Right. So here is an example of competitive release. So there were two types of these, you know, barnacles. Barnacles are arthropods. I'll show you a picture of barnacles. They are the arthropods. So in the coast of Scotland on the rocky seas, which was a dominant barnacle? The dominant barnacle was Balanus, right? And it eliminated the inferior barnacle called as the Cathameles from that zone, right? So this is what happens. But what if due to some reason the Balanus goes away? If the Balanus goes away, if the balanus goes away, that will give the opportunity to the Cathameris to flourish. So if some way the dominant one is removed, then the other one will get to flourish. That is called as competitive release. And there's another example, like what I said is that competitive exclusion principle means what? One will eventually win, the other one will eventually lose if they want the same thing. But better to do what? Resource partitioning, right? Rather than doing competition, better to do the resource partitioning. That is the best option. So what they can do is that to avoid competition, they can choose different times of feeding or foraging, right? And there are examples of resource partitioning in nature. Which are the examples? One of the example is that MacArthur showed that 5 closely related species of warblers, 5 closely related species of warblers living on the same tree, they were able to coexist and avoid competition. So there were 5 different types of warblers. Imagine, they were all different types, but they coexisted in the same tree. Why they could coexist on the same tree? Because they chose different. Due to behavioral differences in foraging activities, their foraging activities were different. Feeding activities were in different behavior. So that's why no one came in way of other. So all the 5, they avoided each other's. So nobody came in way of the other wobbler. That's why they were able to coexist. So that's the best thing to do. Okay, so these were the examples, these were the examples of the different types, which I wanted to share. Yeah, I'll show you the pictures for the warblers and the yeah, so these are the beautiful warblers, right? These are the warblers, yellow sunbirds. Yeah, so these are the warblers, and 5 different types live on the same tree. They did resource partitioning. And let's see about the barnacles. Barnacles, they are found on the whale's body. Yeah, look at this. They get attached to the whales or anything like, these are like, you see those white spots. These are the barnacles. Yeah, they easily attach themselves to the body of the whales and all. Yeah, barnacles was mentioned in the animal kingdom. Only the name barnacle, very good comment. It is mentioned in the kingdom Animalia that barnacles are sedentary. It was mentioned that barnacles was an example of arthropoda and that they are sedentary. They attach, yeah. Good, very good. You remember that reference. Great. Yes, perfect. So now guys, let us go ahead to the parasite. So parasite is something who depends upon the host. Like a mosquito is a parasite. So there are some properties that a parasite has. There are some fixed properties that every parasite has. A parasite depends on the host. As a rule, they harm the host.
As a rule, they harm the host. They derive nutrition from the host, but do not directly kill the host. Remember that they don't directly kill the host. Parasite is not a predator. Remember, predator kills the prey. Lion is not a parasite. Lion is not going to go to deer and say, "Oh dear, I'm not going to kill you. Just give me little flesh." Is it going to say like that? Like a mosquito comes, sucks little part of a blood, doesn't kill us. See, that is different. Some people die of malaria, dengue. That is different. That's because their immunity is low. Thousands and lakhs of people, crores of people are bitten by mosquito every day. So that does that mean that all of them die? So parasite, remember, parasite depends on host. They derive nutrition from the host, but they never directly, not directly kill the host. They harm the host. Yeah, but predator goes and kills the host. They prey upon the host. Yeah, very good. Only because it is needed, or sometimes it just done out of fright. Like many snakes bite humans because they are scared. Like animals attack in instinct. They attack in self-protection. They're actually not trying to eat. It just sometimes out of self-protection, or it just sometimes even they can freak out. The same way like we freak out when we see a wild animal, they can also, because they are equally scared of us humans. We are the worst animals, right? Yeah, so the parasites have evolved certain characters. Now, this was there in the kingdom Animalia. Who would tell me which characters the parasites have more developed? Yeah, we go in the region. Totally right, Komal. Right. The parasites have evolved certain. See, the parasites have two things developed and two things they don't need. Which are the two things that they need? They require a adhesive surface to get stuck. To the body of host, they require organs of succor. They have a well-developed sucker and organs of adhesion so that they can cling and hang on to the host either from outside or inside. Very good, Komal. Suckers and hooks are more developed and they have well-developed regeneration capacity. They have a high power of regeneration. Their reproduction rate is very high. So parasites have evolved these features. So these features are most evolved in the parasites. Hooks and suckers and reproduction regeneration capacity. And which two properties they don't need? Which two properties the parasites don't need? Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, no problem. I'll tell you, no. Which two things that we don't need is that parasites do not need a digestive system. Why the parasites don't care about the digestive system? Because they're already sucking blood which is digested. They're directly feeding on blood, no. So they don't need a developed digestive system. Neither they don't also need the useless sensory organs. They don't need sensory organs because they're endoparasites. If they're living inside the host, why they need senses? Neither they don't need senses, neither they do not need the developed digestive system. It is absent in many parasites. Now we have to go to different types of parasites, guys. This is the most interesting. Like a mosquito drinks the blood. So mosquito is at profit and we are at loss. Parasites are very cruel. So are the predators. They get profit and the host or the prey is at loss. And there are different types of parasites. I'm going to tell you more types than what is there in the book. There are like 7-8 types of parasites like ectoparasite, endoparasite, brood parasite, social parasite, kleptoparasites, hyperparasites, adelphoparasites. So many types of parasites we are going to discuss. All that we shall discuss in the forthcoming sessions. Yeah, anyone wants to ask? See, now this parasitism is left.
And we have to do a lot more. A lot more is left in this chapter. Yes, guys, the NEET results were out and some of my students have got amazing marks, right? Amazing in bio. So I'm sure that you all will also score the best. Best of marks you'll also get.
Yes, that's correct. Very good. That's perfect. Okay, so we'll continue the chapter in the next session. Guys, please read and revise whatever I've taught. Just go through once, just read, revise properly. We still have to do the types of parasites. We have to do predation and we have to do some synopsis, extra synopsis also. And then lots of MCQ practice is left. So it's a very interesting chapter, right? Yeah. If you take it in the right way, it's quite good, quite interesting. Just be patient and do the study properly, solve MCQs. Any doubts, I'm always there. Yeah, anything anyone wants to ask? Okay, so all I've understood everything, I suppose, I presume. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And do take care and see you soon in the next lecture. Bye-bye. See you all of you all. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye guys.